Hi, it's Louise at Spiral Bright Insight here with a quick update. Just looking at the chart for Monday, the 24th of February. Obviously, this is a big week. You know, we are building up to the new moon in Pisces now. And thank you for everybody who has watched my video about that. What I'm drawn to as I check the chart this morning is that Mars is now direct in Cancer at 17 degrees exactly. So we are going to hopefully feel a bit of a shift in terms of the energy, in terms of the speed. Obviously, Mars is a personal planet and represents our sort of power center and what drives us, what motivates us, what sort of gives us the fuel and the fire to kind of get up and going. So very much about action, also quite strong sort of warrior energy. But in Cancer, you know, this is very sort of nurturing. So my sense, having had, you know, this, what it feels like an extended period of retrograde, certainly Mars has been retrograde since last year. We have had time to really explore our inner world, our emotional sort of landscape, to really work on emotional intelligence and to connect with what feels like home, to build this inner sort of foundation, this core, this steady platform that is going to keep us rooted and grounded. And as we kind of now know what it is that we need to feel safe, what feels like home, we can sort of use that and build on it and almost use it to support us as we move forward. Because what is going on in the other parts of the chart, I feel we might actually need that strong sort of rooting and that strong base, and particularly today, and you'll find out why as I sort of go through some of the other aspects that are standing out to me. So we're definitely going to feel, you know, possible breakthroughs now as we move forward. Our sort of energy levels might feel more restored. Obviously, bear in mind that Mars in a water sign is not in a particularly strong position, but this is very much about our emotional state. So what else can we see? As I checked this morning, Moon is opposing Mars in Capricorn. So often Mars opposing Moon, and I speak from experience as I have this in my own natal chart, is tricky because, you know, Mars can be quite aggressive, quite antsy, and it's interesting actually because this opposition is turned round. So in my chart, I've got Moon in Cancer and Mars in Capricorn, whereas at the moment Moon is in Capricorn and Mars is in Cancer. So yeah, there can be a bit of a standoff between, you know, your emotional state and maybe how angry or fired up you might be feeling. And it can manifest, and certainly for me, as sort of bursts of rage. You know, I can be really calm and serene and loving, and then I just go a bit crazy every now and then. It feels slightly different in this sort of in this way, in the opposite way, because Moon is in Capricorn, has got more of a handle on the emotional sort of frame and the emotional state, much more mature, much more grounded, much more structured. You know, sometimes finds it hard to connect to how you really feel. So I feel, you know, if there is stuff coming up today that is going to trigger us at an emotional level, the Moon is kind of holding space and it's not going to necessarily get too out of hand. Now, we also have Mercury is in a trine to Mars, sextile to the Moon, and exactly conjunct Nessus in Pisces. So Mercury and Nessus are at 18 degrees of Pisces. And in the other water sign, we have Vesta in Scorpio at 16 degrees. So let's just talk quickly about Mars trine Vesta. Now, Vesta is kind of that inner light, the hearth, the home, that inner flame that we come back to, that gives us that sense of belonging, that wholeness, that heat, that warmth, that nurture. Vesta. So with Vesta, we are reminded that we have this inner light that can never be put out. And Vesta is in Scorpio at the moment. So Vesta is kind of in the underworld, having to go down into the depths and explore some possibly quite uncomfortable sort of energies, you know, but equally very, very healing, very generative, and very bringing things to the surface in order to be healed and to be held. So with this beautiful trine between Mars and Vesta, you know, there is this sense Mars now has a really strong idea of what home feels like, who he is, you know, so we know who we are, we know what we need, we've got this really sort of solid and stable footing. And Vesta is like holding space, shining that light, that inner light, and that inner flame, and reminding us, you know, that we have that inner light always to hold on to and to come back to, and that it cannot be put out regardless of what happens, regardless of how dark things get. That flame will always be there. And then if we go to the other side over to Pisces, now this is where it gets a little bit interesting. And I was looking for my notes on Nessus, because I know I talked about Nessus in one of my recent moon videos. What do you know, I can't find them, so I've had to kind of remind myself. Nessus is not the nicest energy to kind of navigate. Nessus is one of the centaurs, very much linked to the underworld, sort of plutonic, and there's some quite unpleasant sort of associations with Nessus in terms of what he was responsible for doing in myth. Now, I'm not going to go into that. I invite you to sort of explore that for yourself if you feel called, but I'm more interested in the themes. What does Nessus represent in astrology? So Nessus is basically showing us when he is aspected in the chart, and this depends on your natal placement, but for now, this is a collective placement right next to Mercury, so there is some new understanding coming through. Nessus will show us where we might have patterns, inherited patterns, ancestral patterns that have come down through the generations, linking to associated with abuse, with the much darker aspects of humanity. So abuse, rape, murder, disempowerment, betrayal, you know, mass extermination, horrible sort of examples of what humans can do to one another, and what, you know, what can happen when we are really wading through the dark and the shadow. But Nessus, although there are associations with, you know, this very challenging aspects and parts of life, Nessus's role is to bring those to our awareness so that we can actually take the decision and take responsibility of cutting those patterns, of transmuting, of healing those patterns so they don't need to continue to move down through future generations. And, you know, I've probably spoken about this before, but it is my real sort of understanding is that so many of us are incarnated in this lifetime in particular in order to stop those patterns, to bring them to an end, to cut through them, to break through them. You know, we don't need to keep reliving and keep sort of responding to all this ancestral wounding and trauma. We are able in this lifetime, with the awareness that we have come in with and that we are cultivating, to break through them and to clear them once and for all. And as we do that, we release so many sort of past lives and so many ancestors from, you know, attachment to these wounds, to this abuse, to this darker energy, the heaviness that comes with that. And we literally set them free, and we set ourselves free, and we are also setting free future generations, future souls that are going to come in after us. They will not have to pick up the mantle and carry the responsibility because we are doing the work for them now. So, you know, this is kind of, it's dark, it's not easy, it's horrible, but my feeling is that, you know, Mars now direct is giving us that strength, that inner strength, that emotional intelligence to be able to deal with and process what is coming up. Vesta is reminding us that no matter how dark it gets, we have this flame, this inner light that cannot be extinguished. We've got the moon in Capricorn giving us that edge, that kind of structure, holding place, holding space, you know, giving us this kind of more mature approach. You know, we're not going to go let everything go to pot, you know, today in particular, if things come to light that are more challenging to face up to, because the moon in Capricorn has got us. You know, this is something that we are going to be much more able to deal with, especially with the opposition to Mars. So as things come to our awareness, you know, things that have been hidden subconsciously or, you know, deliberately, there is stuff coming up today that needs to be confronted potentially. And, you know, this might be things that have happened in the past. It might be things that are going on currently, but Mercury is there to help us understand that because we are in Pisces, it feels as if, you know, there is going to be this huge rush of compassion, of understanding, and also of forgiveness. You know, and it takes such a high level of consciousness to be able to forgive deeds, behaviors, actions that we might perceive to be, you know, the darker expression of humanity. But because we've got this really strong, beautiful Piscean energy building up to the Pisces new moon, obviously Neptune is there, Saturn is there, North Node is there, it is literally lifting us up, giving us this like sort of, I don't know, holding space for us to see, you know, the shadow through a different lens, from a different perspective, and to hold space and to have compassion. And it is part of that process that is going to help us to ascend and to rise up into, you know, a higher dimension, a higher reality. Now with Pisces, it is almost as if we've been given this opportunity to just hand it over. Give it to source, give it to a higher power. You know, we don't have to kind of carry the responsibility anymore. It's like we can just let go, we can release it, we can rise it up, literally just, you know, hand it over, and source will take care of it. God, you know, whatever, however you want to describe it, is there is so much high frequency energy coming through at this time, helping us to release the chains that have kept us bound. Obviously, we're working with Pegasus energy as well. Pegasus is so strong at the moment. You know, Saturn is there as well at 20 degrees, just ahead of Nessus and Mercury, again, holding space. And again, that just feels like such a strong theme for today. So although there is potentially, and obviously with astrology, we never really know how it's going to manifest, potentially, you know, some quite hard truths to come to face up to, you know, Nessus is also linked to poisons and, you know, deliberate use and intentional use of poison to cause harm. So again, you know, who knows what is likely to come to light, but it just, when I looked at the chart, I was just a bit like, wow, that feels really, really powerful and really liberating as well. So this is about having to, or being able to, having the courage and the strength and that inner emotional base to face up to fears, to the truth, to reality, you know, whatever that looks like. And that may be at a personal level or a collective level, and be able to hold space and understand that, you know, this is an opportunity to stop the pattern from repeating, from continuing, and from carrying on, to really cut through, you know, and just stop the cycle, clear that, transmute it, heal it. So really, really, really beautiful. And obviously, I haven't checked this morning, but I know there was a really powerful solar flare last night, an X flare, I believe. So, you know, personally, I had difficulty sleeping last night. But, you know, again, if there's more light coming in, the frequencies are intense at the moment. And I know I've talked about how I've been feeling really tired lately. You know, that is likely to continue as the energies continue to increase, because with so much light coming through, our bodies are not used to vibrating at that frequency, to processing that kind of energy. So there is a disconnect. It does feel more challenging, which creates that tiredness, that fatigue, that challenge, that, oh my God, it's like so hard work. That as, you know, we keep pushing through, we keep continuing, we keep going, and we are going to get used to it. You know, our bodies are going to shift, to adapt, and to be able to navigate and process and receive these energies. So this is just the phase where it feels hard, but, you know, shifts are coming. That's kind of what I feel. And you know, we're going to keep having more and more and more solar flares, more and more light coming in, but it is all part of the process to help us raise up and ultimately, move into a much higher level of consciousness. And that applies to everybody. So I hope you have enjoyed my sort of insights there, and that it's resonated, and that there's been a message in there which may have, you know, spoken to you in some way. I'm also grateful for everyone's continued support of my channel, but I would ask, you know, if you can like and even share the video if it resonates and you find it valuable, then that really helps me to grow my channel. It's, you know, it would be great if more people can find me and and have access to my work. And also, I am going to be working on my March newsletter this week. And so if you are not on my mailing list and you want to be, and you want to receive my my updates, please sign up for that on my website, which is spiralbright.co.uk. And while you're there, you can have a look at some of the services that I offer, the readings that I have available, the energy services, etc. And, you know, please reach out to me if anything sort of appeals or calls, or it feels like the right time for you to explore more in terms of your own chart and your own soul blueprint. So thank you so much. I hope you have an amazing week. It's going to be a big one, I feel, with this new moon. You know, I've done my video about that, shared my insight about that, and there are a few other videos that I have got coming up as well. So you may see quite a lot of me this week. You know, I just have to follow my inner guidance and come on and share what I'm called to. So thank you so much, and I will see you soon.